Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what is most likely the biggest chess scandal in history. That is not an understatement. Chess has never been bigger since the boom in 2020, 2021, 2022. We sometimes have our drama here on the 64 Squares, but today takes the cake. To catch you up to speed, it's currently the Singfield Cup in St. Louis. Many of the world's best players are playing, and yesterday Hans Niemann, a rising American prodigy, defeated Magnus Carlsen, the five-time world champion and arguably the greatest player of all time. And today, Magnus Carlsen withdrew from the event and said he cannot elaborate further or else he will get in trouble. He tweeted the clip of Jose Mourinho, who's a football manager, back during an interview where he was saying that if he speaks, he is going to get into trouble. And then he also went on to change, sorry, by the way, it's going to be a very light screen. He changed his Instagram profile to say, beating someone once isn't revenge, which is just a very anime style line. That's kind of, yeah, that's very, so what happened? Okay, a lot of people ran off with this, and credit to Magnus for not sounding inflammatory, accusatory, and we will cover all the games of round number 4. Basically, it seems like Magnus Carlsen thinks something's not quite right with Hans Niemann, okay? And based on that game and based on his results thus far in the event, Hans Niemann is in first place with 2.5 out of 3. So, I cover chess drama when it absolutely explodes, but my goal here is to provide you with the facts and give you my take, all right? And I generally have pretty level-headed takes. Okay, so one of two things is happening. Number one, Hans absolutely did not cheat, and Magnus just caused a huge scandal. Number two, Hans did cheat, and Magnus still caused, he didn't cause it. You get what I'm saying, right? Magnus brought it out to light. So the thing about chess at the highest level is unless you physically catch somebody cheating, there is no, theoretically, there is no evidence. And the only way to do that, live over the board, person to person, someone has to be getting assistance. That is the only way to cheat live over the board. It's happened. People walk to the bathroom. They have a phone there hidden, all right? They communicate with signals. But you would think at a tournament like the Singfield Cup, where they probably have metal detectors, they get wanded, they get most likely patted down, there is nothing you can bring on you that somehow brings messages to your body. Like, if this were to be legitimate, and I don't think Magnus would be making such a claim if he did not think it had legs. How? And the chess world is shaken to its core because nobody knows what's going on now. This is a massive thing to say. Hikaru spent the day talking about some issues that Hans has had in the past with chess.com and playing online. You can check Reddit chess. I mean, it is just flooded with clips. All right, Chessbra came out, and I will show you the games right now. I'm about to get into the games, but I wanted to make this intro, and I wanted to say, like, I have to say my piece here, right? So, if it does come out that Hans is completely legit, nobody can prove any cheating. This is nuts. The whole chess world owes him an apology. If it somehow is determined, I don't know how, right? I don't know how, but if it is determined somehow, Hans is cheating, that would be extremely upsetting. That would be crazy. That would be upsetting. That would mean that chess has some of the worst anti-cheat measures like anywhere. Is it understandable to cheat? I mean, it's not something that we support, but some of your favorite athletes take performance-enhancing drugs, right? It's an addiction. Success is an addiction. It's understandable, but my God, would it be devastating? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, and you know, I've had people in my community, like viewers, cheat. And oftentimes, if they're teenagers, they do get let back in. I do believe in second chances. We all make stupid mistakes when we're younger. But a mistake like that on a scale like this, and I can't even wrap my head around it. Can you? I can't. And on that note, I think it's time to take a look at some chess games that were played today, or not played. Magnus did not make a move against Mamedyarov, and the game did not happen. I hope I was comprehensive, innocent until proven guilty. A couple of pieces of evidence are out there in terms, people are analyzing Hans Niemann's post-match interviews. They're saying, oh, he's not good, that's basically what's going on right now. So I'm relaying all of this information to you. It's a developing case. I have no idea what's going to happen. And if I miss something, write it in the comments, because I don't boot up these things and edit them. So sometimes I miss what I want to say. I'm trying to be as conclusive as possible. Give you the if A, if B, all right? Oh my gosh, so this game never happened. And I will cover Hans versus Firouzja. That's the last game, and this game was insane. So the first game of the day to finish was Jan Nepomniachtchi versus Wesley So. It was a Catalan. Wesley played just a very solid line. B5, this is a move that's been covered a lot recently. And there's this very interesting pawn sacrifice variation. If white takes on c4, there is this tactic. But yeah, Nepo knows all of that. Something tells me, and I might like have a sneaking suspicion that I'm right, although I could be wrong. The players ended up basically swapping their pieces off the board and repeating moves. Something tells me they didn't quite want to play today. You know what I mean? Like, you show up to the board, there's no Magnus. Where is he? And not only that, the games are now on a 15-minute transmission delay. Right? Like, huh? You know what I mean? I mean, it's just crazy. It's really wild stuff. So this game was a draw. That was fast. Levon versus Dominguez. This was an interesting game. Levon plays a massive sideline. Levon plays like a beginner plays against the Sicilian defense. When you first learned openings, you remember those days? You're like, oh, I've got to get my knight out, my bishop out, and I do this versus everything. But as you get stronger, you're like, you don't need to do this. Against the Sicilian, this is not good because there's going to be e6 and d5 stuff. But what we're seeing is you can basically play any opening nowadays and get an okay position. And yeah, I mean, Levon basically plays a Vienna against the Sicilian. Admit it in the comments how many of you have done that. How many of you have learned the Vienna and then made the mistake that you're like, I'm gonna play this against everything. And you get this, you're like, I'm playing the Vienna just like GothamChess. I don't know why you became a Peaky Blinders character in the middle of all that, but you know, this is sort of what Levon does. And then he plays b4. And I mean, Levon's just kind of in a goofy mood today. I feel like he's just like playing b5, instigating on the queen side. Does anybody else feel like you don't want to know how any of the other games went? Like, is that just me? Can you let me know? I don't care about the other games. I'm an anxious person, all right? And since my channel has grown a little bit, just anything causes a little bit more anxiety right now. There's more eyes on me and things like that. But I get, you know, I get through it. And I talk about mental health a lot on Twitch. If you don't know, you should watch my Twitch. But not with your kids. I curse a lot. So I talk about that stuff a lot. Drama like this that has no conclusion, it scares me. I don't know what to expect next. Like, what's going to happen? Is Magnus going to put out a statement? Is Hans going to put out a statement? God, I have no idea. Anyway, this game was very locked for a very long time, and then suddenly we had a knight trade, and this makes things a bit interesting, right? Like, black wants to put some pressure on the d3 pawn, and white just locked everything. Levon kind of put his own bishop in jail, but because black has a very bad structure, he doubled his e-pawns, it's very difficult for him to make a move. He just goes rock solid, and one more pawn gets pushed, and then here both players just decide, you know what? I'm gonna go look at my Twitter, and I'm not gonna, yeah, and they just literally shuffle the moves back and forth. I mean, I honestly feel like people just didn't want to play. Except for the second to last game that I'm gonna show you, Fabiano Caruana versus MVL. They played, oh, did they play? So stay tuned for that. Levon was one of the few people that went on record and said, I don't think that we should jump to conclusions about young players. Levon actually said he thinks that we should give young players a shot. He does not think people should just take their pitchforks and go after Hans Niemann. That's kind of what I said in the intro. I hope that I was getting that point across. Like, if he cheated, it's devastating. If he didn't cheat, the whole chess world owes this man an apology. You know what I mean? Like, this is a crazy thing to say to tarnish somebody's legacy. But only one of two things is true. That's it. That's, and maybe the truth will come out. Now, the second to last game, this game was amazing. So if you want to jump ahead to the Hans Ferrugia game, because I'm going to obviously talk about it, because Hans and Magnus, this whole thing. This one was nuts. So this was a Najdorf. Maxime plays a Najdorf like he does all the time. Fabiano plays the ultra main line. So, both guys going long. By the way, recently in this event, I'm pretty sure Maxime played the move h5 at some point. Like, there was a position he played h5, which prevents g4. This time he goes for the ultra critical main line. So both guys just slugging pawns forward. This is all theory. It's been seen a bunch. And it's a very sharp line that results in black having a position of an extra pawn, but white having the bishop pair. In fact, I think up until move 20-something, the game has happened before. Like, even beyond that. And Fabi is able to win the pawn on f4 and equalize the material, and the position is super imbalanced, right? Very complicated. Kings are just completely polar sides of the board. But in the long run, white might have a chance to kind of break apart that queen side. If black is unable to win by checkmate, white is going to be very happy. And MVL begins kind of fighting back. And around here, I was like, oh, are we going to repeat moves? It's just going to be another draw, and then, what am I going to do with my recap? Fabi says no. Remember, computer says no. You guys remember that clip? No? Is that just me? And he gets this position, and MVL is a little bit worse. He has these split pawns. These pawns are good. Those pawns might have a significant role in the endgame. Might not. D5, F4. DC4 hits the queen. Fabi plays here. Queen is hanging. So is the rook. But now look at this incredible move. If you take, then I take. Oh, but then I get E7. Wait a minute. Okay, so there's no queen E4. That's not a fork. And white is a pawn up. And I told you a long time ago, those pawns might be the difference maker. And Stockfish would hold this endgame with black. Black is not Stockfish. Black is a guy named Maxime Vacher-Lagrave. And now that the players have made it to the time control and they get that extra time, white's playing this for a win. White has 4 pawns versus 3. And what's very important in endgames is you have an active king. Now, in the case of a queen endgame, an active king isn't always a good thing, because the enemy queen is just going to harass you, right? Endgames are all about progress. You look for your imbalance. 2, 1. That is the side of the board on which we're going to win, right? So it takes a little bit of time, all right? All right, we have queen g2 check. And he takes on h6. Okay, now it's 1-on-1, right? But queen c4. And slowly, we see Fabiano, right, doing exactly what he's supposed to do. And he's built up a winning advantage. And here, MVL decides to chuck the pawns and play queen versus queen and 2. Now, this is draw a bull. It's also losable for black. It's not winnable because white is not going to hang a queen. As you can see, my Stockfish here is having a little bit of a breakdown. It doesn't know if this is winning or not. My Stockfish is not strong enough. Once we get this deep into the endgame, chess is solved. So there are databases out there that have solved chess when there are 7 pieces total on the board. If you count the pieces here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the engine knows whether or not this is a win or a draw. It thinks it's a win. Now, how will black survive? Black is going to have to put the king in the corner and rely on either perpetual check or stalemate. So there are going to be traps where you can lose your queen, but it's stalemate. So stalemate, perpetual check. White needs to avoid those things. White should go for queen trades, and white should avoid a drawn king and pawn endgame. So white should not get king in A, because that's just the draw, okay? Let's see it put to the test. Now, I cannot explain the intricacies of each move. Commentators, Yasser Sarawan and Peter Svidler were talking about how there's an endgame where if the queen was on D2, it would be a draw. God help anybody who has that information inside their brain, because yeah. So anyway, you'll notice that, right, the king is kind of dancing forward and looking for shelter. Okay, queen E7, queen C6, progress is being made, queen E7. Now, here for the life of me, I don't understand why the move B5 didn't happen. Somewhere around here. Maybe it wasn't exactly in this. I was after queen C5. Apologies. In this position. Yeah. The move B5. In the other position, it was a draw. So B5 here to just make progress seemed very natural. And then try to play like a mix of a couple of moves and continue to make progress. I just thought that Fabi was going to push his pawn. At some point, Fabi would have to push his pawn, and Fabi blundered the game away. And in this position, played the move queen C5 and threw the game. Why did he throw the game? Because apparently now we see the stalemate trap. It's a draw. You cannot take the queen, and the only way to avoid a draw here is to run all the way back to the beginning. This is the only way. Fabi must have been so pissed. He must have been so demoralized. To throw a game like this just absolutely hurts your soul. And he can't trade the queens. He can't rush, right? There it is. Now he can. Now his king okay. He had to go all the way back to the beginning. Now, Stockfish is claiming this is a draw. I know it says +4. Tablebase thinks this is a draw, which is insane, right? Because you look at this and you're like, it says +4. Stockfish on a web browser doesn't always understand endgames. This endgame has been solved by engines to be a draw. How do you draw it? I have no effing clue. I do not have a clue. I am not strong enough to explain this to you, and neither were the commentators. Peter Svidler and Yasser Sarawan completely gave up. Like, they literally were just like, I don't know why one move is a draw and one move is a win. Chess is just stupid. Engines have ruined the allure of some parts of the game, but not all. Anyway, ranting aside about humanity, here comes Fabiano, right? And he is making progress very slowly with 1 minute on the clock. Apparently, that's not a repetition, by the way. Apparently, there's a move king d5 in some of these positions that wins. And the point is that, like, you try to win the battle on the diagonal. I don't know. Anyway, queen d7, And finally, Fabi gets the a-pawn there, which apparently throws the game. But apparently, Fabi had to play a slightly different way, which was this, and if the king went to the corner, you have check. You have to put your queen here, and then play king b5. That's what the engine says. Fabi does this, and after queen f1, it's apparently a draw again because the king gets stuck in a vortex. And then one more draw that was missed is apparently here, queen e7 for black is the only drawing move. So queen e7 holds the draw according to table base. That doesn't happen. And a beautiful finish here gets the king out of checks and a nice finish. That is why you need the pawns to advance. Now white loses. Remember I told you a long time ago, white has to avoid a drawn endgame? That was with the a-pawn. But black now is forced into a queen trade and not a stalemate, right? So if here you would play queen d8, queen d7, you would take, and this is just a winning king and pawn endgame. You have to get the b pawn, not the a pawn. Fabi wins. I mean, what a game. Good God. I felt like I sat through a 3-hour movie. You remember the first time you watched Avatar? Not The Last Airbender, the one with the blue folks? I was like a kid. I don't remember that movie at all. But I mean, that movie was just so long, okay? And now I have to show you the main event. So this game was fascinating because as the news was developing, and if you skipped ahead here because you just wanted to see the Hans game, hi, thanks for skipping ahead. Watch the rest. I need the ad revenue. I'm joking, no, but seriously, there was a very interesting game. You skipped ahead to it. The people who watched the whole thing through will tell you they just saw a really interesting game. Anyway, this game is interesting because if something is going on that is beyond human comprehension and something, unsavory, we're going to see it, right? Or maybe we won't. Maybe we're going to see a demolition in the opposite direction, right? All eyes were on this game. Now, early on, Hans played relatively normal opening. I mean, I don't exactly know the theoretical status of this position, but it got very tense in the center, and Hans traded a couple of pieces and got this position. Now, Hans is better from the opening. He has very good pressure here on the black position, and Ali Reza is very much defending. Now, here, Hans gave away a full piece. And if you notice, my engine doesn't even understand it. It's like, are you high? So the point is, there is this. It's not mate. Apparently here, there are ideas like queen f4, just holding the position. And look at this, Stockfish thinks that white is better. Well, naturally, Ali Reza was like, what the f... And he just moved his king out of the way. And Hans got a much better position after 20 moves. Now, rook d4 was not the top engine move. I think c4 was, right? And again, Hikaru was watching this game. A lot of people were watching this game and trying to be like, oh, is he, it's like, right? And slowly but surely, Hans got a position where he sacrificed some material and had a bishop and a pawn for a rook with a passed pawn and good pressure, right? And so here, there was a variation that was analyzed in the press conference after, where Hans came up with this line. He brought up this variation to Ali Reza after the game. That's what Ali Reza said. And in the interview, I think, and it was bishop to e5, attacking the queen. When the queen moves to g5, white plays rook g4. And if bishop takes g4, you play f4, and white is winning. White is winning because the queen is trapped, or if the queen runs away to d8, then after this, it's an unstoppable checkmate. Ali Reza after was like, what? Ali Reza was like, I didn't see that at all. Like, huh? And so the only other way to win, the only way to survive is to get this position. King h2, bishop g4, and like some completely insane line that the commentators and everybody else was kind of like, what? Now, Hans brought that up, but he never played that in the game. In the game, he got to this position where he still has the bishop and the pawn for the rook, but black gets to consolidate. And then here, Hans could, for example, sacrifice the bishop and maybe get a perpetual, but he played a little bit more, and Ali Reza defended and, got to like this kind of lock position. Apparently was even better, but I think Ali Reza had enough. All right, he had suffered long enough. He decided, I'm going to get to this endgame, and if there is a God, he will let me survive. And, yeah, I live to see another day, and I live to make a draw. And, yeah, basically, it all comes down to these interviews, right? Like the interviews that the players give with Alejandro Ramirez, interviewing them with the board. And that right now seems to be the major talking point. Now, as I said in my introduction, I look at this in a very black and white way, no pun intended. If something unsavory is going on, that's devastating. That is crazy. Chess needs to drastically improve anti-cheat measures. But also, people make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes at different degrees. You and I have made mistakes day to day, some bigger than others. Some unforgivable, but I'm not talking, I'm not escalating to something like, like murder, but I'm just saying on the scale of mistakes, things happen. I'm not a guy to kick somebody when they're down, and right now, burden of proof, innocent until proven guilty, right? And some of you, I uploaded a clip, some of you were even mad I insinuated this. This is what's being insinuated. Today, I'm giving you the facts. The entire chess world is trying to understand why Magnus Carlsen, the world chess champion, left the tournament after 3 rounds after losing a game. He's never withdrawn from a tournament in his life. He's been ill in tournaments. He has never withdrawn. The last time this has ever happened was like one time. It was not a world champion. Somebody withdrew from a tournament, also protesting a result. In 2009, it was Shahryar Mamedyarev against a grandmaster from, I think it was Russia. I don't even remember the name. I mean, Kurnosov maybe. Yeah, this doesn't happen. If this were to actually be a substantial claim or an insinuation by Magnus, because obviously he didn't say anything. He just gave us the hints. He gave us, and he's not going to say anything probably for legal reasons. And I'm just here to report what's going on in the chess world. So all I'm telling you is it's either A or B. There's no in between. I have no idea what to expect in the coming days. My anxiety's been through the roof the whole day because I just don't know. This is a crazy situation. Yeah. I mean, I think I've said everything that I've said. You know what I mean? Like, you make mistakes on a level like this. You say what you say to the cameras and the media, but I mean, if it actually does come to be true, that would just be unbelievable. I just, what can you even say? But yeah, the truth will come out, hopefully. And if not, if this just stays in a state of limbo, then is anybody else going to be mad? I'm going to be furious if we don't get anything conclusive. I mean, if like we just act like it's nothing. Like the chess world has this way of glossing over drama in 48 to 72 hours. I need an answer. I need to know what's going on. Someone has to tell the truth somewhere. I hope you enjoyed today's recap. If you are new to the world of chess, yeah, this is really quite a scandal, and I will see you in the next video. Get out of here.